going live on Facebook, and I thought I would record it here too, because I don't know if I can save this. Okay, why am I on a small screen? Can I? Big screen, please? There we are. Okay, so I was actually, the room thing on Facebook is kind of strange for me. I'm assuming that if people join in, I can actually see, but so I'm trying to schedule things in this private Facebook group, Heart Disposition, in a room, but I think I want to taking it actually to Zoom next week. And what I wanted to talk about today was that I had labeled it negative self-talk, and I think sometimes that might kind of like throw people off, because this isn't about therapy. Heart Disposition is not about therapy. It's actually, it's an empowerment. It's finding inspiration within. It's about realigning with our true essence and capitalizing, if you will, on who we really are, every aspect of ourselves. Debbie Ford used to teach about, her program is all about the shadow self and embracing the shadow self. And although I never did her work, I'm, somewhat familiar with it. And so what I thought, well, I would maybe just kind of reframe what I was looking for when I was talking about negative self-talk, because it came up with me the other day when I was on the elliptical. And I wrote about it, and I'm actually getting ready to write another insight that I had today. But I don't want to address right now because it's on a different wavelength, if you will. It's the same, but it's different. So, but in keeping with this idea of negative self-talk, it's that personal trainer within. What if we looked at those voices that come down on us? Okay, like in my case the other day, I was looking to, I had this plan. The plan was to get, for 45-50 minutes. And my strategy to get from point A to point B was in fact to adjust my resistance levels. I usually vary between 3 different levels. And so it was, and I adjusted, maybe every 10 minutes. But this particular day, I was doing really, really good. And then the next thing I know is my mind is jumping ahead to, well, what's going to happen towards the end, when you're tired. And so then I started kind of trying to juggle that out. And then the next thought I had was, well, what the hell's wrong with you? Are you bored? Do you just lack that much integrity? And I was laughing about it after I was done. I thought, this is comical. This is the stuff that goes on in my head. This is the way I actually talk to myself. But then I started realizing that voice was actually reminding me. It was a reminder. It was calling me out. It was calling me out. It was calling me forward. It was bringing me present. Because what I came to in that moment was that change is actually the engagement factor. When we start to change things up, like when I if I find myself wanting to change more frequently, in this particular day, I was wanting to go more with the flow of the music as opposed to segments of time. And that just keeps me engaged. Okay, that's what that did for me, is it just kept me engaged. But it was that trainer voice inside of me that really had me looking at, well, what is this really about? What are you doing this for? And so almost like taking that, what we would perceive to be negative self-talk. I mean, I do understand that there's other times that we get really, really hard on ourselves. But if we could just shed light, like take the little flashlight and just go, what is this really? What are you really trying to tell me? What is the point to speaking to myself this way? What can I gain out of this? Because I think that's one of the biggest issues that we face as a culture, is being able to be in a difficult situation and be able just to kind of pull back and realize that that's actually a benefit. How can we, actually, what can we glean? What's the light in that? Because in order to shift away from the idea of just being hard on ourselves? What if we're not just being hard on ourselves? I mean, it's like, I think about, pardon me, people that go in, you know, like pro athletes, right? I mean, these people are trained, I mean, hardcore trained, and they're not, I mean, if you watch some of the football trainings, and I mean, if you really go and watch them, and you just sit there and go, I don't know how they can do that. I mean, I don't know how they can. This is the degree of training that it's time for us to, I feel like it's time for us to begin to impart upon ourselves, emotionally and spiritually. We've reached a point in our timeline in this world that it's requiring proactivity. Okay, let's look at it that we're looking for proactivity. So that's the trainer within. So even though, you know, when, I mean, let's face it, you guys, when somebody's on the field, or, you know, and they're practicing for a football game, or they're practicing for basketball, they're doing their drills, or for that matter, they're in the military and they're doing their drills, they're not backing down. They have, you know, they get their drill sergeants, right? That are you know, I mean, they're making you mad. They're getting on you. You know, we may not like the way it sounds, okay? And it may trigger things in us from post-trauma. But we have to remind ourselves that we're not there, we're here, and this is us, and how can we use this to actually call ourselves forward? This is the reason why I've stopped using the word problem, unless we're talking about math, and even then it's the challenge, because problem means misfortune. But if we look at it as a challenge, the challenge is a summons. It's a summons to show up. So how can we see this negative self-talk as a personal trainer, and a summons to show up for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren, for our communities, and so forth? The time is, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, is calling us forward. And this is the reason why I am so in awe of any of you, all of us that are really doing the work that's required, because this world is dying for new leadership, you know, just some brilliant leadership. And the brilliant leadership does actually come from the internal work. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And I hope you guys are well. And if you're watching this and you're not a part of Heart Disposition, please join us. You are invited. And every Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern, starting next Sunday, what I would like to do is actually have talks about, well, at least start, and then, you know, and just see how, I mean, just have weekly talks, you know, 60 to 90 minutes, weekly talks on Zoom, where we find common ground with people even with different opinions. And in this case, I'm looking to talk about how the masks make us feel. A masked life. How does this make us feel? This is not about yay or nay, okay? I need to make sure that I say that this is not a pro-mask or anti-mask conversation. This is a conversation about how these masks make us feel, what they make us, what comes to mind, what we think about when we are walking around a world that is requiring that we wear masks. Because there's stuff that's happening inside of us that I don't think is coming to the table. And I find there would be great value if we could come to that common ground of conversation to pull together to create understanding and create a movement that supports everybody and eliminates the divisiveness. Because I guarantee you, I can almost promise you that for those who are pro-mask, they have opinions of, you know, my guess is that the thoughts and the feelings are very similar to those that are the anti-mask, and that we would just begin to see that the behaviors that are being seen, whether you wear a mask or not, has little to do with opposing your neighbor. It's more about the way we respond to demands. So I would like, again, that's going to be starting next Sunday on Zoom. I will put a link to my calendar here so that you can register for that. All right, so I'll see you guys later.